You're not dating for a perfect person. You were dating because there is a kind of relationship that you want to have. In last week's video, I talked about true love and a new definition of true love that's built on certain principles. And in this video, I'm going to talk about the first three of those principles, which are really important. They're very foundational. And I also want to talk about how to start approaching dating from the perspective of actually exploring whether or not this foundation exists or could potentially exist between you and the people that you're meeting. First up is respect, unconditional respect. So, unconditional respect looks like even when you disagree, you still treat each other respectfully. It is not something that has to be earned. It is something that you are fundamentally giving to each other as humans who recognize each other's humanity and worthiness of basic human respect and dignity. So, when you are dating, you want to start paying attention to, is this a respectful person? How do they treat me? How do they treat other people? I mean, this is advice that my dad used to give me, back when I was a teenager. And he'd say, men, they can dazzle you with their fancy footwork, but pay attention to, how do they talk to people? How do they talk to the waiter? How do they talk about their mother? I'm adding on top of that, how do they talk about their exes? How do they talk about other people in their lives? And rather than just focus on, is this person respectful towards me? Because obviously that is important. But what's more important is just recognizing their character. Are they a respectful person in general? Because if someone is not a respectful person in general, and that is not something that they extend to people just because they are humans, then you really run the risk of, when you are not in this person's good graces anymore, when things do get challenging, when a disagreement does arise, that suddenly the respect that they showed you at the beginning goes out the window. So paying attention to that while you're dating, and also paying attention to your own behavior, right? Like, am I treating people respectfully? Because again, it's a co-creation, the relationship that you form together. So next up is emotional and physical intimacy. Now, intimacy is about closeness, right? It is about a feeling of special closeness. You are not intimate with every person that you know. You're not even intimate with every person that you care about. So, when you're talking about emotional intimacy in the context of a romantic relationship and dating, you are really looking for, is this someone who I can open up to? Is this somebody who can open up to me? This is not about you have to tell them all of your deepest, darkest secrets and you expect them to do the same on the first date. Don't do that. But this is about just recognizing, is this someone who can open up? Can they actually allow themselves to really be seen, even in some of those places that feel a little uncomfortable or a little vulnerable? And can I do the same? Because remember, you are not looking for other people to possess characteristics and capabilities within a relationship that you yourself do not. So no one has to be perfect here, but this is something that you want to pay attention to. And same goes for physical intimacy. Now, in early dating, depending on the pace that you like to follow, it may not seem like physical intimacy is something that you want to pay attention to right away, but it actually is. And physical intimacy does not necessarily mean sexual intimacy, but you're a person for whom physical touch is something that's very important. When you think about the kind of relationship that you want to have with your partner, you want it to be affectionate, even in ways that aren't sexual, right? So if you're somebody who knows, I like to hold hands, I love a hug, I love having somebody put their arms around me, I like being physically close to another person, then you want to start to notice, like, is this a person who rolls that way as well? Now, obviously, there are levels of intimacy. So, not on a first date am I saying you need to be all over each other, but you do want to pay attention to, is this person somebody who is able to be physically close without sex, right? Because remember, physical intimacy and sexual intimacy, they are cousins, but they are not the same thing. And it's obviously possible to be physically intimate with someone without sex. So noticing, okay, is this person, are they affectionate? Are they somebody who seems that they can open up and meet me at that level of affection and closeness that I am seeking? And then last but not least, emotional and physical safety. Now, this is another thing that you can really start to pay attention to right away. Let's start with emotional safety. So, emotional safety is feeling that your emotions are valued and they are respected and they are acknowledged. So, you know what it feels like to be emotionally unsafe, right? To be emotionally unsafe with someone looks like, They're gaslighting you. They're shaming you for how you feel. They're telling you that you're wrong. They're trying to talk you out of your feelings. And it's not necessarily even a malicious thing. It could be somebody who's just saying, "Oh, it's not that big a deal. Don't worry about it. Don't be upset about that. Oh, get over that." And they might seem like maybe they're being reasonable, but you want to pay attention to that because what you want is safety, right? And the safety to express your full self. And so if somebody is not comfortable with your emotional expression, that is not something that is likely to change very much because some people either have the capacity to acknowledge and hold other people's emotions or they don't. So the point here again is never perfection, but you do want to start paying attention to this and not find yourself in a relationship with someone after a year. You're like, wow, like this person, I can't ever share how I actually feel because they're not able to hear it, or they're never able to share how they feel with me because they don't feel safe to do so. So how can you be a more emotionally safe space for somebody to express themselves? And who are you investing in? Are they able to do that as well? Is something that's really, really important to focus on if you want true love. And then physical safety. So physical safety might feel more obvious because it is just literally, is this somebody who I can trust with my physical safety? And this is not necessarily meaning that they are, a big, strong protector and they're going to fight off, burglars. I mean, hopefully you will protect each other in situations of danger. But in terms of really just talking about, is this somebody who I feel that they respect my bodily integrity, right? Is this somebody who is aggressive with you physically in ways that don't feel comfortable to you? Is this somebody who you see maybe their aggression towards other people? Is this somebody that you can just actually relax, let your guard down, and just say, I have the confidence that this person is never going to intentionally harm me? And this goes also to things like using protection when it comes to sexual intimacy. If there's somebody who's trying to talk you out of having safe sex, that's not safety, right? Literally safe sex. Safe is in the word there. If they can't respect that, or if they can't say, if you're ready to have sexual intimacy with someone and you say, I would like for us to be monogamous, for instance, and I would like for us to both get STD, STI testing. And if they're like, oh, I don't need that, or I've already done that, trust me, I don't have anything, right? That is not creating an environment where you can actually feel safe and feel that this person is respecting your need for safety. So I know sometimes in dating, you meet people and you have chemistry and you get along, and especially if it's been maybe a long time since you've met somebody that you have that connection with, it can feel easy to start to gloss over some of these things and say, oh, maybe this will get better in time. But I really want you to pay attention. I mean, if there's one thing that I have learned in my own relationships and also as a coach and a matchmaker for 13 years, is that the things that typically wind up being deal breakers or being the thing that causes a relationship to end, there were signs from the beginning. It does take self-trust and belief in your own worthiness to recognize those signs and to act on them and to actually say, you know what, if I can't talk about this with this person, if this isn't changing, then I need to see and accept what the situation is. And I deserve to move on. I deserve to have the love and the relationship that I want. So hopefully this has been helpful to you. Unconditional respect doesn't have to be earned. You just get it because you deserve it. And so do they, because we are all human and we all deserve baseline of respect and decency because we are human. Emotional and physical intimacy, and emotional and physical safety. So stay tuned for part 2 next week. In the meantime, please comment, like, subscribe to this channel, and also stay tuned to your heart work, which is a reflection question for you to go a little bit deeper into today's video, is coming up right now. Thanks for watching.